Hello everyone, my name is Adam and I work for Twinkl. My job is to help trainee teachers, ECTs and NQTs to go into the classroom feeling confident. Now, one thing I found that a lot of people were looking for help and advice on was the discussion around assessment, in particular the difference between summative and formative assessment, and what the sort of examples of these assessments, what they look like. So today we're going to quickly talk about the difference between summative and formative assessment, and then I'm going to give you 5 different examples of formative assessment and what it might look like in the classroom for you. The 2 main types of assessment are summative and formative assessment. The easiest way to remember the differences is that summative assessment is essentially a summary of what has been learned throughout the course of over a period of time. Formative assessments are used during your teaching throughout that term or half term as a means of measuring how well children have learned certain concepts, certain ideas, and have met learning objectives to allow you, the teacher, to identify any misconceptions, next steps when children are ready to progress, or whether you need to revisit and reteach any particular concepts before you progress any further. Formative assessments are assessments that you essentially are doing all the time. We just don't always acknowledge them for what they are. This type of assessment will allow you to spot how children are progressing with something, and it will allow you to change your planning or adapt your teaching to adapt to what you are seeing. Formative assessments can take lots of different types of forms. So here are 5 different types of formative assessments that can be very effective. So number 1 is questioning. Obviously, we ask a lot of questions being teachers. I know the children do as well, but not always the relevant ones. But ask questions that are essentially asking children to demonstrate their understanding of what you are teaching them. This could be done at the beginning of a lesson, so you know exactly how to pitch a lesson from the get-go. It could be during the midway section of your session to see if children are ready to progress and move on. It can even be done at the end of a lesson to assess whether you can plan to either move on after this lesson to the next step, or whether you need to reinforce or reteach anything during your next lesson. Number 2 is self-assessment. This is a very useful way of getting feedback from your class on how well they feel they are doing something or understanding your lesson. Teachers do this in lots of different ways. Some teachers like to use the traffic light system, such as the children showing a green traffic light if they're happy, orange if they're not quite sure, or red if they're not quite happy, if they don't quite understand something. And others like to use the thumbs up, the thumbs down, or again, not sure, in the middle sort of approach. This can allow you, yourself and your support staff to identify children who may require additional support during the lesson, or equally to identify maybe a group or overall the feel of the class, whether the children are understanding what's being delivered to them and if they're ready to progress, or whether again you need to reevaluate, reteach something, or go back and go over a certain concept. Number 3 is marking. Now, I know this is one of the teacher's least favourite jobs, but marking with purpose can also be an effective form of formative assessment. Using the marking as a means of determining whether and identifying whether children are ready to progress or could do with further practice means that this does class as a form of formative assessment. If you don't use your marking to inform your next lesson, then this can often be used as a form of summative assessment. But using your marking proactively to actively identify next steps for children, to identify where there may be a misconception somewhere, is a form of summative assessment and should absolutely not be taken for granted. Number 4 is what I like to call having a go. Ask the children to share with you what they already understand about a subject, a concept, or the learning objective that can then allow sort of shine a light on exactly what they already know. It can aid you in identifying any misconceptions that are developing and at what point the children are in their learning. This could be by asking children to have a go at a piece of writing, for example. Which then can be used again, that version of writing can be used again at the end of a term or unit of work to compare against another piece of work they've just composed, and you can use it as a means of measuring how much progress has been made, or also to help identify any particular next steps that the children need to be working on for moving forward. Number 5 is quizzes and mind maps. I know people like to call these all sorts of different things, but essentially I like to use these at the start of a topic in particular. And I've used this with children as young as 3 and 4 years old. I've never not been surprised by children. I'm always surprised by them when I've done this before. But at the start of the new topic, I give the children a quick quiz to see what they already know about it, but I also ask them to take part in or draw their own mind map on what they understand or know about a certain topic, a certain concept, a certain idea. This allows me to have some information about what to plan next, what the children might already know, what they're interested in, and also you can then repeat that task at the end of a topic, compare the two sets of results to see how much progress has been made and how much more the children understand now what you've been teaching them. So those are the 5 tips that I would give you for implementing some formative assessment. I imagine you're already doing quite a high number of them. You may be doing ones that are different to the ones I've suggested in this video. It's a hugely important part of teaching, that constantly assessing and evaluating how successful your teaching is, how much the children are gaining from it, what their next steps are, what they need to do next. It's a fundamental part of teaching practice. Reflecting on ways in which you can improve your practice is always beneficial. All teachers are never the finished article. We're always looking to improve. So often, trainees, ECTs, those sort of teachers that I have regular dealings with may not have had regular practice of assessments. There's not many class teachers that hand over their entire assessments over to a trainee when they're in the classroom. ECTs might be quite fresh to the job, haven't had the opportunity, or don't quite acknowledge precisely what forms they are using, but it's also an incredibly common question during interviews. So it's useful that you're able to talk about them and talk about assessments and the difference between them and examples of how you use it in the classroom, because people want to know that you understand how to implement this. It's always beneficial to take the time to observe other teachers, to take inspiration from what they're doing and seeing what you can implement into your own practice that might be successful for you. You might not like the examples I've given you. It suited my style of teaching. It may not suit yours. So it's always worth watching other practitioners. So, hope you find this video useful. Stay tuned for more on the YouTube channel. I'll say goodbye and see you later. Bye everyone.